But let me introduce my special guest. We have Renee and Mr. Robert Cruz that are on a mission. Robert?
That's correct.
Let's tell us what the mission is.
Well,
Renee or anybody, any one of y'all, jump in.
go ahead, Renee, I guess.
We're a nonprofit corporation with the state of Texas. We have a 501c3 with a federal tax ID. We're known as the Friends of Gus Wortham, and we've transitioned our name to Wortham Park Friends Incorporated. And since 2007, we've been working at basically keeping an eye on Gus Wortham Park Golf Course, which is a 106-year-old golf course that's been through wars, depressions, and recessions, and the heartbeat of the East End, basically. It's a working class, working man's golf course, and it serves the minorities and seniors and underprivileged, and it's been an honor for us to take care of it. Well, this year, as 6 years ago, it came under attack, and the city decided that the Dynamos should have the piece of land for soccer fields, and this time around we have another opposing party that wants to take it, and we feel very strongly about keeping it. And we have a master plan that was designed in 2009 by Baxter Span and the company, and I think that it's time for us to utilize it and make things happen for us here in the East End and for the minorities. I think it's important that we look at having a conservancy and preservation status to make us a part of what we really are in Houston.
Gus Wortham's a historical park, isn't it?
That's correct. It's the oldest golf course in the state of Texas, and again, it's come under onslaught by an organization that wants to make a botanical gardens there, and it's a historical park. It used to be the old Houston Country Club, and was eventually sold to the city by Gus Wortham himself. He purchased it from the Houston Country Club at one time, and then sold the park to the city, and it's been that way since 1973. Primarily, the users are golfers and people on the East End, minorities, blacks. Everybody uses the park, but it's been seeing a resurgence in the minority community of golfers. And it's probably the primary golf course for most Hispanics and African Americans in the community.
But it is so centralized. It's right there in a very rich community. But I was glad to see that even the Houston Chronicle endorsed the fact that they want to preserve it. And I also like the way they put it. They put it as a win-win situation. While the organization is promoting a botanical garden, it's a great concept. It's a great idea that it can really benefit Houston. But the way the Chronicle put it, it really needs a bigger space, more land for the botanical garden. And most definitely to keep Gus Wortham, because to narrow down to 9 holes and have a botanical, it would be a lose-lose for both. So I think it was good the way the Chronicle put it, because it supports the concept that y'all have been supporting. Because for you at home, when they were deciding where to build the dynamo, Gus Wortham was the place. They were going to build it there. That it wasn't making money. It was losing money. It needed too much money to help out. And I guess what concerns me is that, instead of destroying something that's beautiful, to figure out the solution and fix it, preserve it. The only example I can think of is here lately, this cancer research organization that came under a lot of scrutiny, that supposedly funds were not being used appropriately. Everyone had their own little fund for their own organization, and there was no accountability. There was no transparency. They were not following any rigid guidelines. But what the state did, which I thought was very smart, because the idea is good to have cancer research. We need it. But instead of just quashing it and shutting down the organization, they preserved it. They put measures in place that would help have more open and transparency. I would like to see that done more often, like Gus Wortham. It's a great park. What we need is the effort on the part of government to say, how can we partner with the private sector, with your organization that you've been at it since 2007, how can we partner with you and make Gus Wortham better? We can improve it. that should be the philosophy, not to destroy something that has been very beneficial to the community. So I just am very honored to have y'all here for y'all to share, your side.
Well,
Rainey?
thank you. I think it's really important that people understand that we're not just there as a piece of land. We're a part of history. Houston's history and Texas's history. We've been there for 106 years. The Houston Country Club was there for the first 50 years, and then they moved on. And in looking at the fact that the golf course has been there through recessions, depressions, and wars, and is still the heartbeat of the East End, and we have a master plan, I think that if people realized how easy it would be to do a restoration of it and make it more profitable in doing so, that we would have more players there, because not only is it a historic place and a wonderful place for tourists to visit, more players in the Houston area and people who come to visit from other parts of town would be happier to play there. It just needs a little tender, loving care, and that's what basically we are looking at doing, is getting some funds together to do whatever it takes to get the overflow from Memorial Park and Herman Park and get those people out there playing. Since we've been on board for the past 2 months getting publicity, it's amazing all the people that we have on our website and Facebook and Twitter. And
who knows, maybe we get Shell involved, we'll have the Shell Open here.
That's correct.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, I know Shell doesn't have anything against our community. It'd be great to invest in our community, a historical community, and maybe just share the opportunity instead of having it in one particular place. Share it. Let's move it around so it's something that the whole city can benefit from.
Absolutely.
But
the golf course itself is very well designed. It's one of the few golf courses here in Houston, especially the municipal golf courses, is not flat. I mean, the area is by the bayou and it has rolling hills, and it's very well designed. The layout is almost perfect for a golfer. So it's a great golf course. It's a fun golf course to play, and there's many golfers here in the city that recognize that. And in fact, the minority community, if you remember that the Pan American Golf Association has basically the Houston chapter has a clubhouse near there. And, it's been very instrumental in terms of getting minority involved in golf. Both the young and the old have been there for many years. I mean, it's one of the things minority communities really hasn't been involved in golf for a long period of time. And it's one of the avenues for the young to become involved in playing golf. And it's such a great sport. It teaches a lot of things. It teaches competitiveness, teaches ethics and ethical behavior. So it's very important to our community.
Well, I know that we've made a lot of progress in the East End, throughout the East End, throughout the community, where more businesses move in, more schools are opening. They're building new condos, new homes. And I think that Gus Wortham already included in that progress, in the process of making sure that we take this historical park and say, we're going to take this and bring in more partnerships to go along with y'all. I think that, not that y'all need the help, but I think it should be a collaborative effort on the part of many, whether it's big business, whether it's even the Friends of Bio that are involved in beautification. That's a historical area. I think the resources is there. We just need to see the commitment. And I know when you mentioned that minorities have benefited from this, but I think the park can be something that everyone benefits from. And it should be looked at that way. Because, I mean, if maybe the Anglos are thinking that they're not safe to come over here, I can assure you it's one of the safest places in Houston. You can play golf there and feel very relaxed. And if you want more assurance, I can make sure we have more deputies out there when we have the Shell Open there. And when we continue to make Gus Wortham what it deserves. And that is a very rich historical site, so that Houston can brag about all its great golf courses. But we don't have to just have great golf courses out in the suburbs. We can have it right here in Gus Wortham. And that's why I was wanting to talk to y'all and say thank you, first of all, for your effort, because sometimes you don't get the attention you deserve. And if you do get attention, sometimes it's not the attention that we're looking for. We're looking for a win-win, as the Houston Chronicle mentioned. Let us bring these partnerships to help Gus Wortham. Let us help the botanical organization open the botanical garden in an area that is suitable and that it deserves. But
And that's what we're looking for too. We're not saying that the botanical gardens isn't necessarily a worthwhile venture, but we shouldn't be taking something away from that's already there, that exists, that's historical, that's actually a great golf course. It's one of the few inner city golf courses in Houston, and there's something there that we need to preserve, and in fact not just preserve but also to restore. So we're not, again, saying that the Botanical Gardens shouldn't be somewhere in Houston. It needs to be somewhere in Houston. I mean, I've been to the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens. I grew up in Fort Worth originally, and Fort Worth Botanical Gardens is a great place. But we're just saying that why take away from something that's already exists in the community and that's been historically been here and is very important to the community. As you know, many of the organizations have Navidad en Barrio has had their tournament there, and many of the politicians have had their fundraisers there, both politically and charitably. So it's very important for the entire community, and we'd like to preserve it and restore Gus Wortham to what it should be.
And I think also what I envision is you were mentioning earlier, the Lee Treviños in the 60s was something unheard of. It was just unbelievable, you know, his story, starting as a caddy. But to really expand it to where our local high schools can partner and they can have it there as a local facility, whether it's Milby High School or maybe even started in middle school like Jackson, Edison, and Deedy, to be around there, to have this concept, as you said, it builds up not just good sportsmanship, but it builds up, you know, the philosophy of golf. You know, it carries a lot of attention, a lot of prestige that sometimes most of our young children are not exposed to because of either the cost factor or we don't have the facility, and maybe it's not the interest there, but I think as a society, as a community, we can figure out how to build that interest and not just write it off by saying, well, this park is losing money, we can make money with our concept, and it could, you know, give back to the city of Houston. I think that's a very destructive attitude because we can take many government services and use that approach to self-destruct. You can take that concept. I don't have to just take Gus Wortham. I can take some other philosophies and use that concept about why continue to support this if it doesn't really provide any revenue. We saw it here recently with the Dome. I mean, you know, what really took place, or is it that maybe we let it sit there too long and idled, and then people looked at it like, you know, why should I vote on it? It's been sitting there with nothing. But let me see if we can get a caller that's on the air. We go ahead and go with the caller. You want to take one? You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Victor. Hello, Victor.
You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Victor.
Hey, Linda, how you doing?
Okay, you watching the show?
You're watching the show? Well, we're talking about,
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with Gus Wortham Park.
Yes.
It's a great golf course.
You've been there for years.
Yes, it's been there for many years. So are you ready for Thanksgiving, Linda?
Yes, I'm waiting for Thanksgiving.
Good.
And I hate for that, you know, for it to go, and because it's been there for years. And
Well, thank you for your support, Linda. And this great organization here that Robert and Rini is part of, they're going to make sure that it doesn't go away. They're going to preserve it. So you just tell your friends about it. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
You too.
All right.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Take care, Linda. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I do know that once people found out, they've got really involved to preserve it because they didn't know. So you have done a good job to get the word out there, and just to you at home also, just to get the word out there that the idea is just to express your concern that if you live in the Gus Wortham area, that it's a great park. It's been there for many, many years. It's got a lot of potential. Yes, it does need some attention, some tender, loving care. and I think we can find that. Robert?
Yeah, the other thing in terms of the cost factor and the fact that it's lost money, if you look at the overall golf courses here in the city of Houston, Gus Wortham hasn't lost as much as Sharpstown has, or as much as some of the other golf. Brock has lost much more money, and it's almost at a break-even point. But again, like you mentioned, municipal golf courses and municipal services shouldn't just be looked at it on a cost basis, because there are a lot of things that lose money with the city. I mean, parks lose money, but there's a lot of things that we want to keep as city services that don't necessarily shouldn't be money driven, and shouldn't be the cost. Should be the only avenue or the only thing that would be looked at.
Yeah, and because the quality of life is not just measured on just whether it's making money or how much money you have, even though some people misinterpret it that way. But go ahead.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a very important point, that it shouldn't be just looked at in terms of cost. If it's a municipal golf course, it could lose money, and it might be still something that needs to be preserved and something that needs to be restored. Secondly, I think if the Gus Wortham were improved in terms of its quality, then it probably wouldn't lose money. So the city's kind of ignored it, and then at the same time, by ignoring it, it probably has lost some money over the years. But with improvements, and that's what we believe, with improvements, that not only are we going to save Gus Wortham, but we're going to preserve it, and we're also going to restore it, to its original heyday. And we want to do something. The master plan calls for having a big enough facility to host quinceañeras and host other events.
Didn't it used to be that way?
It used to be that way.
They used to have functions, yeah. When you stop and think about 2 million people in the city of Houston, it only turns out to 1.9 cents a person per year as an affordable amenity for the general public, period. Because it's not just people from our area that golf there. There's a lot of college kids that come there as well, and high school students and single parents. So it's important to look at that. And we also offer free golf to children, seasonally, of course. In the winter it closes down, but that's another important factor to keep in mind. And right now we're hoping that by looking at repairing certain things like the cart path, we'll be able to take more players per week, and look at it in that perspective of taking care of things that haven't been taken care of in quite a while, to be able to keep the course running at the speed it should be running, to make the money that it needs to be making for the city, basically.
And I think also, you mentioned earlier, what's important is to make sure that it stays booked more, where you have more events there. And I think it'd be great if you do have the facility where you can have the golf tournament, have the banquet in the evening, people can go home and shower and come back, and have a dance. There's ways to improve it, but it's going to take an effort on the part of many to put not just their heads together, but their hearts together, and also the resources.
We're lacking the community. Basically, is lacking an area like that where we can have meetings and dinner parties, eateries, and ballroom. Just festival type of events. So it would be very, very nice to have that in our part of town, instead of us having to go across town to be able to have our little celebrations and parties. And we certainly deserve it. We've waited so long to be able to get where we are now.
Yeah, and I think the country club environment can also be something that is not just available in certain neighborhoods,
right,
but it can be made part of every golf course for that matter, but especially the most historical one, Gus Wortham. If you create that environment, that atmosphere, I think it can be very inviting to many people. They want to have their banquets there. They want to have their dinner banquets while they golf a little bit. So it can be a win-win situation. But
definitely the facilities as they exist right now are not sufficient even to host some golf tournaments there. Even the charitable golf tournaments, many times a tent is set up outside the facilities or outside as opposed to within the facility. So even the events that are being hosted there at the present time, many times are insufficient in terms of the facilities. So we want something there, and we want to restore it again. We want to the quality that it should be as a golf course. And I think that if that happens, we'll see an increased use of Gus Wortham, even more so than now.
And maybe there's monies out there that's available through some kind of foundations that maybe support parks or support golfing that someone has left, and maybe by using the concept you have, the history of Gus Wortham, the potential for it to grow with not just more tournaments, but the partnership with the schools, including our children. Maybe it's a proposal that y'all can kind of keep in mind where you work on it, plan it, and you see the foundations that you can give it to them. Because I think of a foundation that sees this, what you're proposing is continuing to improve the quality of life. That's what you're proposing.
Absolutely.
And golf has always been there. I mean, I just can say Lee Trevino, but there's many others out there that can tell you golfing improved their quality of life.
Absolutely. I've seen it improve quality of life for families who have like autistic children and children with Down syndrome. You would think that they would not be able to function learning a sport, like that. And I've seen those children really learn a whole lot as far as patience and being able to be around other people, whereas it controls their temper tantrums and little blathering type of situations that they go through. It teaches them to be a lot more in control because it's a one-on-one environment and you're focused on that child, and all of a sudden they're finding something that makes them happy because you're happy because they're having fun. So it's not just normal children that benefit from this sport, and I've worked a lot with special needs children, and I find that anytime you make anyone happy, especially children, it's a wonderful thing, especially if they keep doing the sport and they turn into magnificent adults.
I had never heard that side of it. That's very interesting. I'm going to have to read up more on that.
Good.
That golfing can be used in that aspect. I mean, that's an interesting, and I'm sure you've done your...
I have 2 case studies in our neighborhood.
You've done
yes.
your research there, but I'm going to look into it. I know I've got a caller. It's on hold. Do we go to our caller this time? You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I'm on the air.
You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I'm on the air. Okay. I was just calling and wondering, what can the community do to get behind this project? That would be terrible if that was to go away. I'd love to go golf. That would be really terrible.
I appreciate the call. We'll answer over the air. Thank you.
Thank you.
What can the community do to get involved?
Well, the community can first visit our website, WorthamParkFriends.org, and you can read all about us and the history and how you can contact council members and write letters, and there's you can contact us directly, and there's lots of things that you can help with. So if you want to be a part of what we're doing, we welcome you on board. Absolutely, we'd be happy to have you. It's a blessing, actually. So we want everyone to be a part of this time because it is so momentous for us. To me, being a part of history for 106 years and now getting the community involved for wanting conservancy and preservation status means a lot. It's like we've been saying this for the past 6 years, and now we're really getting serious about it and drawing more attention to us. And it's because it's something that the community wants. It's not just me saying it or Robert saying it. People are coming up and saying, well, why can't we have conservancy and why can't we have preservation status? I tell them, well, the property doesn't belong to us, it belongs to the city. We have to work with the city and we have to make arrangements and agreements and all kinds of stuff. We all have to work together. So now that we have the support that we have garnered recently, I think that we're a lot closer to that momentous step and making history ourselves.
And it takes time. It's such efforts because you're dealing with a lot of obstacles that you're having to face. Not just the idea of someone wanting to build a botanical garden, but the idea that that organization wouldn't have made a presentation if they already didn't have some backing.
That's correct.
So that's the other part. There's already someone, whether in government, feels like they want to do something, but they don't want to come out because they don't want to take the political heat. So they'll get someone like a botanical garden to do it, which of course they were, the concept was probably already there in the minds of this group that we're going to build a botanical garden. It was there. But for them to be so, not bold, but so brazen, so I think disrespectful.
I find it
And,
very offensive that a group would come out.
Well, I mean, I know what you mean, but I don't get it. I wouldn't look at it as offensive because, you know, this is competitiveness, free enterprise. But I don't believe this group did it without the backing of some political figure that doesn't want to come out yet until they measure. That's how they do their strategy.
Right, and I guess I want to address the caller a little bit. Is that we have the first issue that we have the issue of saving the golf course, and we're going to need help in terms of, because eventually City Council will decide this issue, the first issue of saving the golf course, and then we have a second issue here of restoring the golf course, and we're going to need substantial help in that regard, in terms of restoring it, both financially and otherwise, and help in terms of getting to people who have the financial resources to restore the golf course to what it should be. So there's kind of an immediate issue, which, you know, should develop in the next probably months or so, that we need support on and help. And then there's a second issue in terms of restoring the golf course and getting the funding and the backing necessary for that type of issue.
And we do have a petition online on our website where you can click and sign, and it's basically down to the consensus of the community. If we want to help Gus, we need to sign the petition and basically get other people to sign it and present it to city and say, hey, when the time comes, it's basically we have to make our voice heard, that we feel that strongly about keeping Gus Wortham.
Well, time goes by fast when we're having fun. Thank y'all, Robert and Rini, and to you at home again, thank you. I left you with a trivia question. The two countries in the world that celebrate Thanksgiving besides the United States, who is the other country? It's Canada. Canada and the United States. And next week is Thanksgiving. Enjoy it with your family, your loved ones, your friends. And remember, Thanksgiving is about not just cutting the turkey and breaking bread, but also to remember those that are in need, whether it's throughout the world or in our community. You know, let's say a prayer for them. Our men and women that are overseas serving our country, let us also pray for them, pray for their families. That's what Thanksgiving is about. And I think to only have two countries in the world that celebrate it, we should do something to make sure that other countries see the need. And maybe they would say, well, we don't need a special day. I believe we do need a special day, even though every day we can be thankful for all our blessings, ladies and gentlemen. But, you know, I think it's important, especially when we see some of the tragedies that happen, not just here, but throughout the world. So I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Final comments, Robert?
Well, like I said, we need the support of the community, and hopefully we will prevail. I believe we will.
I think so also. I'm not trying to be just optimistic. I think it's realistic. Gus Wortham, I think, is here to stay. We just need to work on the improvements in the future so we can continue to improve it. Rini, final words?
I would like to thank the Chronicle editorial board for their wise words. And we do want a botanical garden in Houston. I think it's important that we do get one. It's just a matter of finding the right location, like the Dynamos found the right location 6 years ago, and that this time that there is more of an effort to restore Gus Wortham to its finer glory that it had 106 years ago when it first opened up, and all the names of Houston's families and all the famous golfers that played there are all preserved in history. I think that it would be doing them all justice by keeping it going yet another 100 or so years.
Well, thank you all very much. And just leave you with this. In recent years, how many pounds of turkey did Americans eat on Thanksgiving? In 2007, 690 million pounds. That's what they gave me. Thank y'all. Happy Thanksgiving.